Jennifer Lawrence tries to save the mid-budget studio raunchy comedy. Will she make you laugh hard, or will you go home unsatisfied? Hey you, welcome back to the MontyVerse. Today we're going to be giving a review on the Jennifer Lawrence vehicle, No Hard Feelings. Nikki, what is No Hard Feelings about?
Well, it's about this woman named Maddie, who's a struggling Uber driver bartender who loses her car and comes across a listing from a wealthy couple who, in exchange for a new car, want her to date their 19-year-old son and kind of get him out of his shell and have him be a little more experienced before he goes off to college. But of course, awkward shenanigans are abound.
Awkward shenanigans indeed. This was a fun little summer comedy. These types of movies I've really missed seeing a lot in theaters. It feels like ever since the mid to late 2000s, we've been getting less and less of them in theaters. And I really was happy to kind of have one that we would be able to go see this year.
No, definitely. And I think that in the last 5 or so years, honestly, the first one that comes to mind for me is maybe something like Game Night or...
But those are so different, though, in the way that they're structured. This harkens back to, like, the American Pie quadrilogy.
Yeah, like, something a little raunchier, more adult and risque in some regards.
Yeah, like the Hangover movies, like Bridesmaids even, to a certain extent, where I feel like we've had good comedies, don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoyed Game Night, I enjoyed, the other types, but the comedies seem to be getting a little bit more heady and a little bit more art house pieces than just simple, like, raunchy, dirty comedy.
Right.
And I feel like this movie does that well.
And that's not to say that a lot of those kinds of films that are a little bit headier and maybe transcend other genres, that's not to say that this movie has no heart to it, that it's just like joke after joke after joke. But I think it is refreshing to see something where that's kind of the primary focus.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't mean it like that. I meant in terms of like movies like Booksmart. Booksmart is, you could say that is a high school comedy, but it's nowhere, you wouldn't compare Booksmart to an American Pie movie.
No, absolutely
Or like
not.
a Van Wilder. Where I would compare this to a American Pie movie or a Van Wilder. Like that kind of risque humor. That kind of very... oh man, this is like really going like there. It's really trying to cross some of those lines. And that's what I think we've been missing a little bit. A humor, I don't want to say the word playing it safe, but I feel like humor's been a little safe in the theaters recently.
There are some times where, just predicated on this concept alone, which is already a bit weird as it is, you're definitely going to get some awkward and risque aspects when you have, like I said, the plot involves this fully grown adult woman.
Yes. Essentially trying to groom it's not grooming because he is a young man. He is 19 years old in the movie.
But like very much trying to open him up sexual.
There's this unspoken contract between her and his parents where she's going to date him hard, as they say in the movie.
Yes. But that's what I kind of appreciate, because I think they reach that line without crossing it, because I think what I appreciate about the movie is that they do some really crazy things, but something that you and I talked about is one of the strengths of it is how grounded and real these characters actually feel.
That's one of the strongest aspects of the movie. I was surprised at how much I ended up it almost held the movie back because I ended up loving these characters so much. So by the third act, I was really engrossed in their story and them as people. And that's in no small part to the cast of this film. I think Jennifer Lawrence and Andrew Barth... Feldman, thank you. Who play Maddie and Percy, respectively. They killed it. They create these characters that feel lived in, but are so human that you can't help but feel for them as the movie continues and goes forward. Jennifer Lawrence in particular, she does some things in this film that I honestly can't believe that Jennifer Lawrence would do. I'm like, she went for it.
Yeah.
Good for her. This movie used her in the sense of it advertised itself around her.
Yeah.
And she put her all into this movie. to make it as funny and shocking, and I think a lot of the times it worked for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree. What's so funny that I thought about while watching it, because I'm a huge fan of Silver Linings Playbook, which I think she's obviously also fantastic
great
in.
Movie.
And that, not that that's a raunchy comedy, but it is a comedy.
That's a dark comedy.
It's a dark comedy, and she curses a lot in that movie. And there's something about her delivery of F-bombs that like always works. And she feels like, in so many of her roles, she does feel like a real person. Because in this film, she's very much an asshole. Yes. But you are still just endeared enough to her and caring about what she's doing.
She's a likable asshole. She's a real person. She's a person who is complex and who has issues.
Yeah.
And I think the more we learn about the character, the more likability and favor she garners from the audience.
Yeah, like a big thing with her character in this film is she's very embittered towards rich people. And while there is eventually a deeper reason for it, I think it's, and even though she kind of says it very on the nose a lot, I think it's also very relatable.
Yes. There's this sense of classism in this film, and the struggle of the different classes that I found really fascinating, and I did not know was going to be in this movie.
Yeah, but again, I think they approach it from a good, hard, raunchy comedy perspective of like, yeah, it's not like this intense, like, heady theme, but I think the way they approach it from her character is very relatable.
Yes, the film is also, outside of the two main characters, this film has a lot of lovable side characters, I think, but the biggest problem I have is the side characters are utilized way too little in terms of the story, but they're all really likable. Between Percy's parents, who are played by Matthew Broderick, and Broadway's
Laura Benanti,
they were both really great, and they play these helicopter parents who, and I feel like we all know people out there who are like this, who protect their child from everything. Their child essentially lives in a bubble of their own creation.
Yeah, they track them. They want to dictate everything they do. A joke in the movie is the guy is 19 and he refers to everyone else as the adults.
Yeah, and it's like, you're an adult. It's like that great joke from Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I need an adult. I am an adult. But yeah, that's great. Under a crime that they underutilized the great Natalie Morales in this film. I wish she got a little bit more to do. But I mean, this is a two-hander, and I think the two leads definitely carried this movie.
We didn't even talk about Andrew Barth Feldman that much yet.
No, we didn't.
He's fantastic, and it makes me really wish I saw him as Evan Hansen now.
His character is such a great foil to Jennifer Lawrence's energy. Jennifer Lawrence comes into this movie with a lot of energy and charisma, and she really dominates the screen. And then when he comes on, his character Percy is he crafts such a awkward but fascinatingly awkward character that you can't help, like, when the two of them are together, there's undeniable chemistry, and it just works.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, he has such a cringe, awkward energy to him, but it works so well for this movie, and he doesn't feel like a caricature.
Absolutely. But that being said, there are some flaws to the film. I think the film was a little long.
It's definitely too long. I think most straight comedies really don't need to be more than an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I really don't want to call this a flaw, but because it's so fascinating to me. The front of this movie is joke heavy.
Yeah.
All the jokes are, not all of them, but the majority of the jokes are towards the first and halfway through the second act of the movie. And then the second half of the movie is, the majority of the film is very emotional and very, like, it's not, but it's more heart forward.
It gets more serious as, like, the characters kind of delve more into their issues, and
it's more character forward.
Right, which isn't inherently bad. No, it's just a tonal shift that isn't 100% smooth.
Yeah, it's an awkward transition. But I don't mind being in either of those movies. Yeah, it feels like we're going from, like, this raunchy college comedy into, like, a more serious, darker, not darker, but a more serious tonal comedy.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't want to call it a fault, but it is a little jarring when you're watching it in theaters.
And again, I think it doesn't help that the movie is as long as it is, because then, like, it stays on some scenes longer than I feel like it needed to.
Yes. And outside of that, I will say the direction, there are some interesting thoughts, but there's nothing that really jumps out to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything about the film, aside from the performances, that jumped out as spectacular. I also think that, for the most part, the jokes mostly work. There's a couple minor characters who, if you scrap them from the movie, it'd have no impact. And I think some of the humor they tried to imbue with them just fell flat a little bit. But thankfully, like I said, it's mostly inconsequential.
Yeah, inconsequential. I laughed way harder than I should have at some stuff. But I found it a lot funnier than the rest of the people in the theater with us, which was annoying because I wanted them to laugh more.
No, definitely.
But, Nikki, out of 5... Let's do seashells.
Ooh.
Out of 5 seashells.
It is on the beach.
It is on the beach. Unless there's something more important symbolically that I'm forgetting. No, because I don't want to do half a dog. I was gonna say let's do dogs, but I don't want to. If one of us gives it a half a rating, I don't want to put a half a dog on there. So let's. Oh, Chinese finger traps, right?
Yes, that's
we'll do that. That's a part.
Yes.
Out of 5 finger traps, what do you rate No Hard Feelings?
As an overall pretty solid raunchy comedy, I will give it 3.5 Chinese finger traps, but I guess the half isn't gonna trap anything now.
It's not. It's just gonna be, or does it become just a smaller finger trap?
I don't know how that works.
Well, we'll find out when I cut it in half. I'm going to give this film 3.5 out of 5 finger traps. I think we're in agreement. It's a fun movie. It's a really fun, like we saw it on a Saturday afternoon. We had a really good time with it. Just something you could just walk into, forget about the day, and just watch the movie and have fun with it.
Yeah.
So overall, really good film. We had fun watching it.
Absolutely. And honestly, just another wonderful reminder how talented J-Law is.
Yes. If you like this video and you want to watch more, check out more of our reviews on one of these screens in the end screen. I didn't figure out where I'm going to put them yet, but they're going to be somewhere here. And you could also catch more of our content coming out all the time, so like and subscribe to the video. And until next time, guys, stay versed.